Thank you, Senator Johnson. Governor Noem, thank you so much for being here today, and I want to thank you for your continuing service, the service that you had as a member of Congress, the service that you have displayed as a governor of the great state of South Dakota, our neighbor to the northwest, and for being willing to step up and take on this immense responsibility. So thank you so very much. We had such a good discussion when you came to my office in the last several weeks, and we talked about the importance of securing our border and fixing our broken immigration system. And I'd like to start today by sharing a story about one of my constituents from Council Bluffs, Iowa. And what we have seen through this broken border is tragedy that strikes so many families across the United States. So very similar to the story that was shared by my colleague from Missouri with his constituent, Mr. Wolf. I have a young woman by the name of Sarah Root who encountered tragedy on January 31st, 9 years ago. So Sarah Root was struck and killed by an illegal immigrant who was drunk driving. He was driving at 3 times the legal limit of alcohol. And Sarah's killer was bonded out before the Roots laid her to rest. He fled the country and has not been seen or heard from since. The Root family has not seen justice. So, Governor, how do you plan to prioritize the detention and deportation of illegal immigrants like Sarah's killer?
Well, yes, Senator. Thank you for telling Sarah's story. I remember when this happened because it was so close to home and so devastating for her and her family and the entire state of Iowa and our country. President Trump is focused on making sure that these types of situations don't happen again, that we don't continue to lose our children and our family members to illegal immigrants that come in and perpetuate crime and with no accountability and then are released with no consequences. So the number one priority of the president is to secure the border and to deport these criminal actors immediately and as soon as possible. They will be the number one priority to make our communities safer and so that we don't have this kind of situation going forward. In fact, people, I think when they first heard my name being mentioned and nominated for the Department of Homeland Security, maybe thought it was a little bit of a surprise. Like, oh, I didn't think about Christy doing that job. But I tell people the reason that I asked for it is because I knew it was the president's number one priority. I knew that it needed to have someone in the position that would do what the president promised the American people, would be strong enough to do it, and follow through to make sure that we're protecting our communities and America, but that also came at it from a perspective of how these families feel, that was a wife and a mom and a grandmother, and would be able to stand up and communicate to the American people what we were doing and why we were, because it's what they asked us to do. I have 3 grandchildren and 1 more on the way, and when I look at little Miss Addie every day, I just think, what kind of a country is she going to grow up in? What kind of a country will we leave her and her brother and his sister? And I don't want them to think that their grandma sat on the sidelines and didn't do all that she could. So I will enforce the Constitution and the law, and I will make sure that when people enact horrific things like this that happened to Sarah and her family, that there will be consequences for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a fellow grandma, I know that you are perfectly positioned to enforce this. I do want to move on to another topic that we visited about in my office. So I'm the founder and the chair of the DOJ Senate caucus. And so we do need greater government efficiency. And I do believe in order to do that, we need less of our employees teleworking and more of those government workers back in the office working for our constituents. And to that end, it ties together then too. We just found out that the Treasury Department had a cyber attack on December 8th from China. And no surprise here, they access servers through work from home software. So it all ties together. We need more people back in the offices, making sure that any communications are secured, any work is secured. And to that, I know the Biden administration has put a huge emphasis on the cyber bureaucracy, but they haven't really done anything about it. And they haven't given any authority to those that are enforcing the standards. So we need to enforce the standards that are set forth to make sure the cybersecurity is truly there. But what can DHS do? One, with telework, how do we get the employees back? And then two, how do we make sure that our systems are secure from these cyber attacks?
Well, Senator, thank you for focusing on remote work and the need to get people back in their offices and accountable to the work that they do. In fact, I've heard since being nominated for this position that many of the agencies within the department are not showing up, they're not doing their jobs. But even FEMA, who is responsible for disaster response, that they have the alternative, some of these employees, to not even respond to a disaster, which might explain the horrific results that we saw in North Carolina when they had such a terrible disaster that impacted families and communities, and FEMA failed them so miserably. If it's not even a responsibility of them to show up when terrible things happen, what other day-to-day activities are not getting done because they're working for home or not doing their job at all. You talked about cybersecurity and the need to ensure that our systems are safe and secure. One of the things that disturbs me the most is that we don't necessarily even know how some of these espionage attacks that have infiltrated our systems have happened. We don't know how to stop them yet. We don't have the knowledge, and that our departments and intelligence agencies and cybersecurity agencies have become siloed and aren't working together to stay in front of these bad actors. But many times our most vulnerable area happens at the state and local level. Some of these smaller entities that feed information into our systems is where they choose to infiltrate and get our data and to really hold for ransom many of these companies and then impact our federal systems as well. So one of the first meetings I had when I was elected governor with the former governor during the transition was he said the number one priority you're going to have as governor is to secure our systems. He said our systems are so antiquated, and we've had over 16,000 hacking attempts in just the last month. You need to secure our systems and get it done. So that was a priority for me. And to do that, and we fully funded it and got it done in South Dakota, and it's being implemented today. I look forward to doing that at the federal level to make sure that people's data and information is safe, but also our country is safe from these bad actors that have a plan to take us out.
Well, thank you. My time has expired, but I do want to end on a note that another thing that I do truly appreciate about you and your nomination is that as a governor, you have worked with those local constituencies as well and those local governments. And I know that this will be an incredible strength that will ensure continued success for you within the department. So thank you, Governor, very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.